All right. Hi, Chris. Well, welcome back, everyone who's been watching. A bit of technical issues here, but we've just joined our game, one of our quarterfinal games. I will tell you the players. So we've got Sport R is received a bye into the semi-finals. They will play one of our quarterfinal winners. And we've got 6 quarterfinalists. We're currently watching Hognedge playing Statmat. Statmat is our token Brit, who's made the top 7. Weird to say top 7, isn't it? And then we also have Stephen Chang, TW versus Mars 15. Mars is Marion from Romania. And Stephen Chang, I assume, is Stephen Chang from Taiwan. And Game Over versus Cheng Fen Tai is the other quarterfinal. So we're going to focus on this at the moment. We're coming in, we've had 2 tiles each. How's it looking, Chris?
Grab your popcorn, strap in for a ride. Friends and family all around the world, we are in for a barn burner of a playoffs here at the Carcassonne UK Championships, which it feels a little bit strange to call it the UK Championships, considering the global outreach of this incredibly strong field. We have Hognedge. Is that what flag? Where is Hognedge from again?
I imagine that's Norway.
No way, it's Norway. It is Norway. I think we've made that joke earlier. We've started immediately, and it looks like the texture of the board. We've started immediately with a fight for the first castle. Really interesting here how StatMat chooses to place this. I would probably assume that they place it connected to their own castle with the grass towards Hognedge's, which is a dual-purpose move. 1, it expands your own castle, and 2, it prevents Hognedge from completing theirs easily. And we've just seen exactly that. Does this mean
this is actually quite nice because they get to do this? Yeah, that's quite nice. That was a nice tile to draw.
It certainly was. However, the question is, as the game evolves, StatMat will be looking to strand the northern placed castle by Hognedge to stop that from being able to be completed, if it is at all possible. So I will be looking at if StatMat draws a couple of tiles. Oh, wow. Okay. I was about to say this, but let's talk about this now. StatMat immediately contesting their own with their own castle piece, trying to join in the party with Hognedge. I would assume that moving forward, that Hognedge cannot really prevent StatMat from joining on. The interesting point would be: will Red place a castle tile to the north of their current big castle, but to the south of their small castle, to try to outmuscle StatMat here? Will that happen? We have an Abbey here, our first Abbey by Hognedge. Really interesting play.
I think it's quite nice. You can place it here.
Perfect.
It ends the road as well. So
yes, it does, and you get your robber back. So that's a really nice play by Hognedge out to a nice early lead. But as we've experienced in these games, the game context of the first couple of turns doesn't really matter. What matters is how do players develop into the mid game. And really, the 2 tension points are when StatMat draws castle tiles, will they use them to finish their own castle first, which will certainly be a priority, or how will they use them to compete for this growing castle in the center of the board, nominally owned by Red at the moment? How will Red respond? Will Red choose to continue to start another castle, or will they themselves want to finish off their northern castle, the little tiny guy at the top?
So that's a sensible move, because basically that space there was a potential tile you could use to block the completion of this city. So I think that's a sensible move from StatMat. Now, completing the city also increases the value of the Abbey.
A really good dual-purpose move. You'll note that these top players in the world, of which StatMat certainly is one, they play their moves with multiple different intents. Although Hognedge, he's only got 1 here. He's very clearly saying something to StatMat. He's saying, "I'm going to try to stop you from completing that castle. So I don't mind if I give you an extra point."
He really wants a curved road. He wants something to make this space hard to build into. I wonder if it's sensible to put an early farmer down on this tile. He chose not to.
It might be a little bit early. I've got a feeling that the main farm is going to be the one on the other side of that castle, exactly just there. Yeah. Really telling that that no farmer has made it there just yet. And I think that with the completion of 1 or 2 more castles, we'll certainly see that area be more strongly contested. Really interesting to see when and how players choose to invest in the farmlands as we begin. Oh, very cool. StatMat managing to link up and chances were that they were going to. Hognedge didn't really have any real blocking opportunities, so it was just a matter of time before they could steal and get a hold of their castle, which is nice because that castle is now awash. Really, what I'm interested now is whether or not this yellow castle at the top, owned by StatMat presumably, is going to be blocked by Hognedge, or how does when Hognedge does draw some more castle tiles, where will they go? And we've just seen Hognedge, really luckily, getting another abbey. This is certainly going to help increase the likelihood of a farm-intensive game. Although we seem to have with this board texture and the tiles drawn in this order and the tactics currently played, it seems like a very harmonious game so far, which tends to lead to the idea that farmers are going to be more crucial. What do you think, Steve?
Yeah, harmonious games are games where there's a lot of small cities getting completed with no blocking, and the more cities that get completed, the more valuable farming space becomes, so farming real estate. So I think you're absolutely right there, Chris. At the moment, we've not had too many city tiles, so we'll see how that pans out. You'll notice that there's a lot of space to the left-hand side of the board with no cities on them at all. So I think at the moment, we'll see what we get drawn out, but you're absolutely right there. If these cities get completed, then farming becomes important.
Sorry to interrupt you there. Hognedge, it looks like, is going to place this to block. It'll be interesting to see how they block Yellow's castle. Yes, that's the best position. Now they had two options there: the northern side road or the right hand side road. And I think that the tiebreaker came. Hognedge chose the northern side because on the right hand side it gives points to StatMat for their abbey. So when you have two options, you want to choose the one that gives fewer points to your opponent.
Yeah, also extends their road as well. So I think that's the best option for two reasons.
Certainly, yes.
This isn't great. I think there's not many places you can put this. I think the only place you can put this actually is this space here. You could put it here.
You can use the road ending.
Bad. That would be bad because that means your city's not going to complete and it will strand these two workers. I think
you're right. Yes, StatMat has drawn a poor tile.
So I think you have to just put it onto this city down here, and it doesn't really do anything.
It doesn't advance your game plan at all. I want to draw everybody's attention to the time situation, which is very different from the Swiss rounds, which was quite generous. In the Swiss rounds, both players had something like 20-something minutes, 25 minutes on the clock, and no player had any problem whatsoever. But here, it looks like we start with a 3-minute game with a slight increment. We'll pay attention now to see what that increment is. But if the time is hit 0, it is possible to require your opponent to forfeit. And we'll see if that ends up playing a deal. It certainly will be, because now it's not just about finding the best move. It's about being who thinks best most quickly. So what's the best move that you can come up with under time pressures, which for all of our chess players out there who play in shorter time controls, you'll be familiar with. If you're not familiar with playing with a clock for board games, then this might be an element of considerable stress for you the first time that you come to it. The only way that we can recommend you get better is just to play, just experience, play with a clock. It will certainly change the way that you see the game.
Yeah, and so to counter, StatMat had a not good tile, and Hognedge had another tile that doesn't really do anything. You don't really want to put a person on it because it's so easy to block a city that's got 3 edge spaces. So he hasn't committed a person to this. He just placed it in a place where you could actually legally place it.
I'm curious.
Yeah.
So StatMat's placement there, I think that's good by StatMat because it doesn't change the required. Actually, this tile that Hognedge has just drawn is the perfect space, is one of the tiles that StatMat is looking for. So I think that StatMat made that placement there, just to reinforce the idea that that his city is still completable if he manages to draw one of the tiles needed to finish it. And that placement is going to be it's going to be quite lucrative for StatMat because they'll get back 2 meeples. Very important.
So what Chris is saying is that this is the tile that he needed before this one was placed. So before the last road police was placed, you needed this tile. However, if something different is placed there, it makes this square one of the impossible squares, one of the good squares to make your opponent do. So StatMat has not only increased their abbey and their roads, but they forced this square to be that tile specifically, and there's no way that they can't complete it, with the exception of not being lucky enough to draw one of those tiles. And in terms of that tile, there are several of those in the game. There's 3 of these in the game that have a semicircle with a piece to the right-hand side of it, and that is the first one so far. So there's still 2 more pieces and that will fit and complete that. And so StatMat will do well if they draw it and do poorly if they don't, I think.
I really, while StatMat is presumably behind on the points, behind by 9 points.
Hognedge has the other one. There's another one there.
Oh gosh, are there any more?
There's one more
I missed
after that.
There's
there's
one more
after that.
So it's literally a 50% for the final tile for StatMat, and it's pretty high stakes. You know, if you get that tile, you score the abbey, score the castle, score the road, but most importantly, you get back 3 different meeples. Really interesting placement by Hognedge here to try to contest this massively long road that StatMat has been growing over the right-hand side of the board. Right?
Yeah.
Choosing to do that rather than the farmlands, which I don't think I think that's probably very appropriate because right now it doesn't look like there's any particularly strong farmlands being developed.
No, I agree. If this city doesn't finish off, then there's only currently one easily completed city there, and it's not even that easy to get to a farm that connects to that. It's hard to place a farm on this tile or up here.
With Hognedge's last placement, the red tile in the top left-hand corner, there was the potential for Hognedge to fight StatMat for ownership of their large castle. And it's really interesting that they chose not to do that, mainly. And I wonder what the finer considerations are towards that point.
Where would you have put it? I don't think you could you? You'd have to put it.
You could have connected it to the road.
Yeah,
you could have connected that road. You could have connected the road on that to the northern road at the top of the board.
This one?
With the end tile.
Yeah, but then you have to go all the way around.
You'd have to go all the way around, but there's still a potential.
Yeah, so maybe when I want to fight, I generally want to fight with one tile needed rather than more than one. I think that might be the case with these guys too.
And I certainly think that's a consideration that Hognedge here tried to avoid. And it's really interesting. Now we've got that same tension point that we've seen all throughout today, where StatMat has a castle, Hognedge has a castle, and they're doing their best to not only finish their own castles but prevent their opponents from finishing theirs. So Hognedge here can very quickly take the 4 points, and that's exactly what they've done. Very interesting, yes, and they've done the old castle hop over. You finish your castle and you make a new one right next door.
Yeah, things like this are pretty good actually, because this is very hard to be blocked because you'll need 2 tiles to come around and block it. So by the time your opponent gets to the point to block it, you might already finished it. So this sort of trial, you'll see it when you have games that kind of go on and on and on and on. You get lots of tiles in a row with little castle after little castle, and it's mainly because they're really safe. They're really safe to put a meeple on that because you are probably going to get that meeple back.
It also incentivizes, if we end up with a lot of like two tile castles, that increases the value of farmers. And so you'll end up seeing generally, if players can afford to fight for it, you'll end up seeing a really big battle for farms. Although, like, look at the meeple economy, right? Unless StatMat manages to draw the right tile that he needs, StatMat is down 3 meeples. And we actually kind of see the same thing happening with Hognedge. Wow, triple Abbey. Hognedge has been quite lucky with these Abbey draws and outdrawing Abbeys 3-1, right? But really, the meeple economy is super low for both of them. Will this 13 points prove definitive? What do you think, Steve?
I think so. I think Hognedge has got more points on the board potentially. I think it all comes down to if StatMat can draw this tile early, they'll be back in it. So they might not be able to draw it. They might not draw it late. Either of those options is pretty poor.
It's not super critical just yet.
Yeah, it's not super critical. But if StatMat draws it on the next turn, you think, right, it's back open, it's back on. At the moment, I think Hognedge is ahead. I think Hognedge has got a 13-point lead. Potentially gets this meeple back quite quickly. Whereas the yellows, again, they've both got 1 meeple that'll get back quickly. The rest of their meeples are kind of either fixed for a while or fixed for unless they draw like the specific tile they need.
Throughout today, we've seen board textures where farmers are king, and we end up seeing these battles where both players will commit like 3 or 4 farmers, and that's generally when there are lots of little castles completed. This is certainly not that board texture. We have too many roads, and the road textures are such that that there aren't very many clear castles, and because of the way that the players have blocked one another. That's also stopped the tile placements from the start from facilitating farmers. Having said that, we've just seen StatMat do his own little...
That's the last one. That's the last one that fits in that game.
Unlucky by StatMat.
Yeah.
Very unlucky.
Hognedge has drawn all 3. That's a 1 in 8 chance. That's pretty hard.
Yes. Yeah, StatMat made that gamble when there were still two of the tiles he needed in the game, and now all three of those meeple are going to be isolated. I'd imagine that StatMat would be very much aware of that, and so they're only playing with the meeples in hand now because it looks like the other meeples that they've got invested in the two castles, they're also going to be unfinished.
Yeah, I mean, you could technically finish this in 2 turns, but basically, if you finish it and Hognedge doesn't spend tiles to do so, you're both scoring the same points, and the only reason you're doing it is to get a meeple back, but you're benefiting your opponent too. So I'm not sure that's a great move. You can see that in theory
Super aggressive.
he's chosen to go over here.
That's really aggressive by StatMat, and I kind of agree with the decision. He's behind, StatMat is behind on the points. He needs to do something, and one of those somethings. How many tiles remaining do we have? How many games
35.
left do we have?
Sorry,
35.
I've
No,
reset
not at all.
my computer crashed, so I had to. There we go.
There's
35.
still room to maneuver, and I believe StatMat's hopes in it lie one in completing their own massive castle, or two dominating a farm game which is relevant. Unfortunately, these the meeple in hand situation strongly favors Hognedge because it's much easier for them to get back their abbey meeples than it is StatMat to get back any of their castle meeples.
So we saw that basically you could have put this down here to try and get this Abbey guy back. But what they've done, they're doing that thing that we've seen happen all day. When you've got a small lead and the board's about the safe, I think red might be slightly ahead on board. No, it's probably about the same, but all yellow's scoring is end game, whereas red can get theirs back. What red is doing is just making it more and more difficult for yellow to pull meeples off. So Hognedge could have put this down here, trying to get this Abbey guy back. Potentially that wouldn't be an awful move, but they've chosen to just make this city really difficult to complete.
Certainly, and I'd probably say that StatMat is going to play the rest of this game with one meeple in hand or less. So that really restricts their options. They cannot place farmers willy nilly. They'll be looking to take easy points quickly, or to try to do whatever they can to finish. There's still like a really outside chance they could get either of these meeples back, but it's really Hognedge in the driver's seat here. A really nice. I mean, really, we're only like halfway through the game. We're halfway through the game with 72 tiles, and Hognedge seems to have a considerable lead now with 50% of the game left to play. Do you really see, Steve, any way for StatMat to come back? Am I writing him off too quickly?
Yeah, I mean, mathematically, it's not over, is it? So we'll keep going. I think you're looking when you draw like 2 or 3 abbeys and you put them all out near each other. Basically, if you put a tile next to one of your 3 abbeys, is that tile's scoring you 2 points without putting a meeple on it because it will score for 2 different abbeys. So I think once you've got a group of abbeys like this, it's just so advantageous that you're not spending meeples to get points. You're putting the tiles down. That tile scores 2 points, one for this abbey, one for this abbey, and you don't even need to put a meeple on it. It's so good for you.
I could not agree more. It looks like Hognedge is just kind of doesn't need to do much, doesn't need to do much in order to maintain this win. And we just see StatMat doing exactly that, doing these hit and run tactics. But unfortunately, right, even though you managed to score 4 points for yourself to take this castle, you're giving away 1 point. The Hognedge gets a rebate of 1 point because of the abbey placement.
He does.
Not a good place to be in. These 11 points, I feel, StatMat is going to feel like a massive wall to climb.
I agree. The issue is Hognedge hasn't got a city, so whenever they draw a city tile like this, the dilemma.
Is it too late to start one?
No, I don't think it is. I think you could put the tile here and put a meeple on it. That's another possibility.
What a bully! Bullying is not only good for you if you're in year 3, it's also good for you if you want to play in the Carcassonne UK Championships. Bully your opponents. Hognedge, understanding that StatMat has difficulties with meeple placement, is going to do their best. This is a calculated gamble here of stealing StatMat's continuing expansion for their castle. Or alternately, if StatMat doesn't draw the right tiles in the right way, that's completely fine for Hognedge. They can just make their own tile, they can start their own castle on their own. So this is a multi-pronged castle placement. Either they can join in and steal StatMat's stuff if they get the right tiles, or they can just start their own castle and give themselves points, both of which are fantastic options for them. Really, what a bully move. Nicely played, Hognedge. I'd expect them to connect this one north. Actually, no, excuse me, I correct myself, to the right. I would say.
I think so. I think you're right. Yeah, I mean, the other possibilities, you can put it near one of your abbeys, trying to get some more points to your abbey. So here's worth 2 points to you. But potentially something like that's not ridiculous.
Oh,
Ooh.
I'm wrong. He went with my initial thought of north. Is this? Well, I mean, this is still a dual. It's a dual purpose move. Now it's less
Yeah,
about stealing stat mat, and now it's about blocking stat mat while growing
yeah.
your own
But
castle.
StatMat's drawn the tile he needs. So I think
He
potentially
does, yeah.
StatMat could place this here and even put a farmer in it because the farmer's worth 6 points. You've got to think about farm spaces at some point, but because he's only got 2 meeples for the rest of the game, potentially maybe he doesn't do that.
I think the farm is very valuable here because the farmer is 6 points now, and he can grow to more.
Yeah, he's not. He's
But
not. He's not put it down.
the meeple in hand is also very valuable.
Yeah, I think potentially he tries to finish the city off maybe at some point. So that gets
With
that completes the abbey.
So the last two moves have been quite eventful. The past two moves have been quite eventful for both players, returning those one meeples in hand. We're going to see a little bit more freedom to invest in farmers soon now, and both of these abbeys in the bottom left hand corner of the board, these are really close to being able to be finished. Really quite easy for Hoggen Edge. Look for Hoggen Edge to finish those, but also look for Hoggen Edge to grow their own castle in the top right hand corner. It'll be interesting to see when StatMat gains castle pieces. Will they continue to grow their own castle in the top left hand side, which is it's unlikely to be completed. Let's be frank about it. Or whether they start their own castle somewhere else on the board. Really interesting now. The decision of whether or not either player decides to invest in the farm game is going to be an exciting one to watch. With 26 tiles remaining, the juiciest farms are certainly the right hand side of the board with those 6 points there, or the top left hand side again with 6 points. Although the top left hand side is less attractive because of the texture of those roads around it, meaning that it's easily cut offable. I don't know if that's a word. If it isn't a word, then now it is a word. All those Scrabble players out there, please enjoy my new word, uncut offable. StatMat choosing the quick points there on the road, taking 3 quick points. The point differential now being 9 points. I withdraw what I said before. StatMat, there's still plenty of game left. I would still say that Hoggen Edge has a slight advantage, but there's still plenty to be seen.
I think so. They've both got 2 workers each, and I think it depends on if one farm. I don't think farms are going to come into this game.
I don't actually. I revised that opinion from before. I wonder whether it was Hoggen Edge's idea or StatMat's idea to place the roads in such a way to prevent the likelihood of farms being definitive. I certainly believe that it is in Hoggen Edge's interest now not to give any potential for StatMat to come back into the game to prevent farms. So that they can trade meeples 1 for 1. And I think it's in StatMat's interest now to complicate things as much as they can. But yeah, my question is...
It's unfortunate for StatMat that they haven't been able to block these abbeys at the bottom. Sometimes you can kill off an abbey. So, for example, what I mean by that is this abbey here has been killed off. There's no tile that will go here now. That abbey's dead. So although it's going to score you 8 points, in fact, these abbeys are going to score the points they've currently got. But StatMat's not been in a position to kill these off because Hoggen Edge has not let them. Basically, if StatMat tries to, all StatMat's doing is giving them points. Because you're placing tiles near the abbey.
Yeah. Really interesting. And these 13 points, and Hoggen Edge needs to do nothing else but play straightforward. Hoggen Edge can spend some more time blocking, but they don't really need to do that. The blocking has been done already. They just need to dink and dive. The impetus, the requirement to find some way to break the balance really is on StatMat. It doesn't matter whether you win by 1 point or 10 points. You still have to. It's your responsibility if you're trailing to overcome this gap. And Steve Raine is hovering his cursor over the top left-hand side of the board. Certainly, one of those ways of coming back would be to complete. And certainly there's one end piece here which can be contributed to the southern end, the bottom end of that big old castle. The question is there any potential here to complete this castle?
No, I was just going to point out that the tile that goes here is the same as the tile that goes here.
Yes.
And they're all gone. So both these spaces are dead. So there's a chat. It says, StatMat says when Hoggen Edge do the last one, he went, "Gar, that's unfortunate." Gar is English for "oh no," if you don't know what Gar means. And Hoggen Edge says, "Yes, I'm sorry." So Hoggen Edge I don't know whether Hoggen Edge said that with a smile or a commiserating tap on the shoulder.
I love that you just translated English slang for all of our non-English English viewers.
So Statmat's just threatening to join the city on the right side. I don't think Statmat can let Hognedge finish that city off. And the reason that potentially you don't put this tile somewhere up here is that you give the other half of the end city pieces to Hognedge to allow them to come and steal a big city, because the big city is, although it's not going to finish, it's still worth 3, 6, 7 points.
I think Statmat understands that he's got to make gambles now. He's in a state where he's behind, and he needs to be able to gamble that he'll draw the right pieces that he needs. And we're going to see these calculated gambles turn up in placements like his last one, which was the one before his last, which is where he's trying to fight Hognedge for this large castle and towards the right. So it's about these gambles now. It'll be interesting to see whether these gambles come out, or whether Hognedge can prevent those gambles from taking place to begin with by restricting the tile placements.
We have a result. One of the results from the playoffs is game over. We've not actually seen it. We've talked about them a lot. Beat Chengfeng Tsai 116-82. So game over is going to make the semi-finals. I don't know who they're playing. They might be playing Sport R again, because they've already played, or they might be playing the winner of this match or the other match we have yet to see.
That is that's a hooter. That's a barn raiser of a score line. Chengfeng Tsai, thank you so much for showing us some excellent gameplay, and congratulations on making it through to the playoffs to begin with. Thank you for raising the flag of Taiwan high. Here we go. Back to this game. Both players. There certainly is an increment. I haven't been paying attention to the level of the increment. I believe it's quite generous. I believe it's like at least 30 seconds. So we'll see. We'll pay a little bit more attention here. See if we can catch what that increment is. But the lead now seems to be 11 points by Hognedge.
Yeah.
Is that a 30-second increment?
40.
40 seconds.
Like 40, yeah.
40
I don't know
seconds.
what the cap is. It'll be 40 seconds per turn with a cap of about 4 minutes, I imagine.
Yeah, really generous. And certainly, I don't expect any of these players at this caliber, certainly, to run into any time troubles moving forward.
I always think it's a shame, especially in a knockout situation, for someone to lose on time. So I think this is absolutely fine. I think when you're waiting when there's 117 people or however many people entered, waiting for rounds to finish, I think, yeah, you should have really strict times. You don't want people hanging around. But at this point, when there's only a few people left in the tournament, you're just waiting for your game, and you don't want to be rushed, really. So I think it's really nice to have lenient time penalty.
I agree with you. There's this idea of time pressures being relaxed as we get further into tournaments is something that doesn't just happen for us. It happens across a lot of the larger gaming franchises, things like Magic the Gathering, poker, as you go through to the final tables. The play styles generally take longer so that players can have higher quality decisions, more time to think. I want to draw attention to the southern end of the board near these two abbeys, which Hognedge has just managed to complete to great effect. Hognedge has been building out this road to the south of the abbey. Each of those road pieces, of course, being worth 2 points because of the collusion of those abbeys, which is one of the other reasons why when you draw multiple abbeys, it's very powerful to cluster them like this, such that you get the additive bonuses that every single tile you place around that in that little zone benefits you points. Something I want to draw attention to, though, is that this road, which is already 3 points long, is unclaimed. And certainly Hognedge is in a better position than Statmat to claim that road if he ever draws a road ending. Statmat is pretty much in this, like, he's in the poverty cycle where he's only got the one meeple. He's going to be looking to score simple points only. Cannot contest in the farms. Cannot contest in the castles. And we've got a road ending. That might simply be just for Statmat to give himself 1 point. I cannot imagine that at this stage of the game, with only 6 remaining tile placements each, 7 placements each, that Statmat has any real hope of finishing that castle, which would, under optimal conditions, is impossible.
Yeah, you can't place a tile here, so I don't think you can do it.
Impossible, yeah. So Statmat just gaining that 1 point there. The discrepancy between score being 24 points here.
Yeah, I think Hognedge's next few turns will be to put some farmers down just to consolidate their lead. I can't see Hognedge losing from here. They've got 3 meeples in hand and a 24-point lead.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
But you bear in mind, StatMat probably has more actual scoring at the end of the game because this city's a wash, this city's a wash, and then StatMat has these 4 meeples down this diagonal, which actually score collectively quite a few points. So I think Hognedge needs to potentially just put a few farmers down. There's no one big farmland, so in theory you can put lots of farmers on. They're lucky they've drawn another abbey. That's pretty good.
Wow. So if we count points on the board, StatMat's northern castle is 9 points.
Do you want to count yellow and I'll count red?
So yellow's got 24 points on board.
Yeah, red's got 19. That's not including the 2 washed out cities.
So it looks like the current discrepancy of the 24 points is not going to be made up simply on the board by StatMat. It's really difficult to think of any collection of tiles that StatMat could draw that will bring him out of this.
Yeah. I suppose if you can take the city off reds, then potentially. But I think that's your last meeple. So I think Hognedge can just spend a couple of turns putting 2 farmers out, getting 6 points for each farmer. Looking pretty good.
That's a calculated gamble, and I think that StatMat was looking exactly for the tile that Hognedge literally just drew. So I think that StatMat made that move with the intention of hoping against hope to get that piece to connect through. There aren't going to be that many more of those pieces. Hognedge, I would assume, is going to just actually they don't actually have their own castle to place that onto. So interesting decision here to see whether Hognedge decides to side a new castle. I would say why not?
Yeah, I mean that doesn't cost. That castle's a wash anyway.
That's a wash, yeah. So that's a neutral move. That's a point neutral move here.
Yeah.
StatMat has these roads and can't really block Hognedge from building a castle because Hognedge doesn't have a castle, which is. And also the grassland sides of this aren't relevant because the farmland competition isn't that relevant either.
Well, they've got no farmers, yeah.
We're entering this position where StatMat is drawing a bunch of stuff that can't help them, which is never where you want. Oh wow, Hognedge with another abbey tile, nail in the coffin.
So I think although the scores are quite drastically different. I think this comes down to how lucky Hognedge has been. They've drawn 5 abbeys, and they drew all 3 of the tiles that StatMat needed for this space and this space. So I don't think Hognedge has played bad. I don't think StatMat's played bad. I do think Hognedge has drawn very well.
It's not only the way when you the tiles that you draw, it's also when you draw them. So the fact that StatMat, I actually agree with StatMat's earlier play, and I don't mind StatMat predicating his entire game about drawing one of, I think it was 3 tiles at that stage, with like 3/4 of the tiles remaining to be drawn, because chances are there's only a 1 in 8 chance that you don't draw those tiles. Just because it happened that 1 out of 8 chance happened, and you ended up with 3 stranded meeple, and therefore a big discrepancy in terms of your scoring opportunities, doesn't make his gamble any less of a good one to make. So I think that StatMat played a really good race here, and as you say, just got unlucky with the timings of those tile draws.
Yeah, I fully agree. I think abbeys are good. I mean, in a 4-player game, I want loads of abbeys. Abbeys are great. Because in a 4-player game, there's a lot of things that don't get finished. The only things that get finished often are things that people are working together on. So if Chris and I shared a city against 2 other players, we'll both try and build that city up because it benefits us versus the other players. But in a 2-player game, as soon as you're both in the same city, you either fight for it or you leave it alone. So abbeys are very good. I think abbeys score very well. And often if you draw an abbey late on, it's at least 6 points. Pretty good.
More likely to be 7, 8, or 9. Abbeys are a really easy way to get points. StatMat with this draw, I imagine they're just going to add on to their castle, but really it feels like these final placements are a little bit futile. And of course, at this level, these players will understand the board texture just as we do, probably even better, understanding exactly what tiles are remaining. How do you? I know that we've spoken around this issue before with Steve, but
I tell you what, this is a chance. This is a chance because StatMat can win one big city now. They can build a tile here.
They need the tile that Hognedge just drew.
Yeah. Oh, is that the last one? If that's the last one, I
think that's the last one.
I think we'll double check. Yeah. One. Yes, that's the last one. Oh, how unlucky! Unlucky.
However, Look, I really, really want to take my hat off to StatMat here because there's this term in poker where you play to your outs, and we've seen that happen a number of times here with StatMat, and it's simply not worked out. But I love the resilience that StatMat has shown in order to make these little placements specifically to try to get there anyway, to give them any opportunity to make up the point differential. I really enjoy that, and I think that resilience of mindset is something that we can all learn from an excellent competitor, StatMat. Thank you very much for showing us that lesson.
Yeah, I think StatMat's been lucky. They played to that and they missed it, which there's not much you can do. But oh my god.
So the question that I wanted to ask you earlier, Steve, was in these long format games, because you're actually not a terrible gamer yourself. When you're losing a game like this for a long time, how do you keep yourself resilient? How do you keep yourself in it? How do you keep yourself motivated to calculate?
I think it's mentally stable. Just when your opponent gets lucky or you get unlucky, you've just got to keep emotionally level-headed. Or if you do get frustrated, you've got to find a way to vent it and then come back to being level-headed. And again, I think it's been in those situations before. If this is the first tournament you're in and you're really excited, you're really hyper, your emotions are going to be up and down. But if you've done this lots and lots of times, and the more you've played the game, the more you know things happen, bad things happen, good things happen, whatever. And you can kind of keep that level-headed, knowing that it happens. It can be frustrating, but as long as you don't let it affect you, you're fine. I do have a result actually on the fourth semi-final between Stephen Chang TW and Mars 15. It is 89 to 88 points in favour of Stephen Chang TW.
Come on, Stephen Chang! Steve Chang for Taiwan. Come on. Wow. Beating up the world champion.
He did indeed, yeah. So I'm going to see if I can find who's playing who now. And I don't know what the next round draw is, but I'll see if I can find that out to you. I think we're just scoring now, so we're going to see how much
we certainly are. Marion, if you're watching the stream, thank you so much for showing us an extraordinary level of play here at the Carcassonne UK Championships. We certainly look forward to seeing your play through the rest of this tournament, through the rest of the Mindsports Olympiad, excuse me, if you're registered for these other games. And I've got a note here that says that Marion is actually multi-tabling. They're playing in the Takanoko Mindsports Olympiad concurrently while they play the Carcassonne, which is extraordinary, you know? How ridiculous.
Yeah. Fully agree.
So the final scores are in, and we have a 35-point discrepancy between Hognedge and StatMat. Even though StatMat, you lost by 35 points here, I think the game was a lot closer than that, and I really appreciate the style of your level of play. Thank you so much again for showing us that brilliant resiliency. Congratulations on getting this far, and I look forward to watching our other good friend Hognedge as they advance into the semifinals.
Yeah, as soon as one of those games comes up, I'm going to put it on the screen. But like I say, if you like what you see, the MSO, it's still got a week left. You can go to msoworld.com, have a look at some of the events coming up. You can also, next year, when hopefully live play is available, then we will have a very similar structured week of tournaments in live, and when you can actually sit and chat to people and have a good time as well. That will be held probably in London again at the JW3 Centre in northwest London. So come along down there, find out all the information, and if you've liked what you've seen, you can get to join in.
Fantastic. So we're a little bit away from our next semifinals from being from running for us. In the meantime, as I have to echo what Steve has said. Thank you very much for joining us so far for our commentary. We're looking forward to showing you some more of this super high level play. If you have questions for us, if you want to chuck questions at the winners, hopefully we'll get our winners interview in at the very final end. Please feel free to write our questions in, available through either Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter. Right now we are live on the Board Game Arena website. You can simply click. We're live via their Twitch stream, so you can click that Twitch, and we'll be watching through their comments there for your interaction as we move through the concluding rounds of what has been an extraordinary tournament so far.
Yeah, we have the semi-final lineup. They're not started yet, but the lineup is the first seed is playing the fourth seed. So that's Sportar is playing Hognedge. We've already seen, and then the other semi-final with two players we haven't actually seen. Stephen Chang TW playing Game Over. So I think we're going to watch the game where we haven't seen either of the players when it comes up. So I will put that on the screen as soon as I can.
Fantastic. I really do hope that that we end up with a finals where actually all four players have demonstrated an extraordinary level of capacity all throughout the rounds of this tournament. And can I ask you, Steve, when you're playing in a tournament like this, where you're playing for many hours, right? These players started today at 11 a.m. British Standard Time, and right now we're entering into our fifth hour of gaming. So the requirement to concentrate for long periods of time is really quite hard. How do you stay fresh?
Uh, I'm going to quote myself again. I used to play in a bridge competition where you play twice a day for 10 days in a row, and the sessions are like 3.5 hours long. So I'd be playing 7 to 8 hours a day, sometimes a bit more if I stayed for one of the midnight events, stupidly. And I did that for 10 days. So not only in one day do you have to keep yourself mentally strong, you have to do it for 10 days. And the reason I could do it is because I'd done it before. So all these things, how do you keep sharp? Well, if you're familiar with the game, then a lot of the decisions become second nature to you. You know, when you pick up a tile, you haven't got 8 choices. You've got 2 choices, here or here. Which one's best? So obviously, your familiarity with the game will make it easier for you to think through problems. And also, just having done it before, if you have done this a lot, if you sit and play online games a lot, you'll get better at this. You'll find a lot of the people who are doing well at this are the people like Mars 15 and Ankush Kandawal who can multi-table and multitask. And not only are they able to play several games at once because they've done it a lot themselves, they're very good at playing several games at once.
How important are aspects like your health and stretching and eating right and drinking things and toilet breaks about the human that you are, the animal that you are, making sure that the animal is comfortable?
Oh, I think absolutely huge. I think nowadays, mental health links to your diet quite a lot. So I think all that sort of stuff, just being mentally sharp, is links to everything you do. You need to be fitter people, probably have longer concentration spans. Mentally well people, just people who are eating well and all that sort of stuff, probably benefit from doing so. It can't be a hindrance. So although I don't know how impactful, there might be people who potentially aren't that healthy who can still do quite well. I think it's nothing but a bonus.
So, would you imagine if you're competing at these high levels? Because the Mind Sports Olympiad, if you're looking to compete in 90 tournaments, if you're looking, certainly, I hope nobody out there is playing all 90 tournaments. I don't think that's physically possible, but we certainly are seeing a number of players play in a large proportion of those tournaments anyway, in their aspirations to capture the Pentamind. So my question to you is, Steve, what's the life cycle like? What do you think the lives are like when you're playing for these games for this long period of time? Do you think that there are is it like a gigantic snack bowl over here? Do you think you've got massage people coming in to give you a bit of a rub every now and then? What does it look like? What do you think?
Oh, hang on. Sorry. Go back again. Sorry, someone jumped in. Stephen Chang started a game, and then a random person from the site said, "Oh, I'll play." Account for that. So yeah. So I don't know. I don't think. I mean, tonight I'm streaming for hours and hours and hours, and I haven't really prepped anything. I think you get enough breaks in play that you can leave and go and get a bite to eat or a snack or a cup of coffee or something. And I think if you are, I do have a bottle of water down the side that I can drink if I need to, if I get thirsty. So you prep as well as you want to there. Last weekend I played in Entropy and I streamed Entropy for 6 hours 7 minutes. The stream was absolutely exhausting by the end of it. And after I played my game, I then looked at other people's games, so I was exhausted. But I've used to thinking for that long a time, and I had my water and all that stuff. But I also play quite fast, so if I need to, I can finish my match, nip out, and the rest of the tournament won't be ready. I think if you I went to a GP once and played Magic, and I played a version of Magic called Control, and your matches are really long. And I was going to time on lots of matches, and at the end I thought, oh my god, I can't do that again, because I was having as some people going there and playing really quick decks that either won or lost quickly, and then they'd have a 30-minute break because they're waiting for the rest of the matches to finish. I was sitting there playing all these decisions, playing loads of little micromanagement decisions and stuff, and at the end of it I'm like, oh my god, it's exhausting, and you just don't get a break because all your matches are going the full 50 minutes instead of like a 10-minute match like some of your friends are getting.
Yeah, perfect analogy there. For those of you out there who might be daunted by the idea of sitting down for a 6 hour tournament, I have to echo what Steve says. Just, build yourself up and don't do things. Never play a game. Don't sit for this Mind Sports Olympiad thing unless it's fun. right? Unless there's some silly part of you that really is too passionate to let it go. If you're interested in competing at this level, then there are so many different ways to scratch that itch. So you certainly don't need to sit down and play for 6 hours if you don't want to. And certainly we have a whole bunch of tournaments in our schedule for the Mind Sports Olympiad where you can play and then leave whenever you're happy. In fact, there's nothing stopping you from dropping out, as we've seen in these earlier rounds for Carcassonne today, when you have other things to play through. But certainly the benefit is if you have that discipline ingrained in you, if you have that ability to concentrate in one particular discipline, it will help you not only in these other games, not only in the game that you choose to participate in, say, for example, Carcassonne, not only in other games like Carcassonne, but I'm a big believer that it'll help you in life. The ability to just sit down and think, and the ability to bend your body to your will, and to understand what are the things that make you happy to do so. But yes, to reiterate that point, please, I hope no one out there is, being strapped to a chair by their parents saying you have to become the UK champion of Carcassonne or we'll disown you. I hope there aren't any board gaming tiger parents out there. And if there are, then please write angry YouTube comments below about why I am wrong. Now, Steve, how far away are we? I see that you're busy typing there, so I won't bother you too much. How far away are we from
we're ready
getting
to
started with our semifinals? Fantastic.
Still to start. One of the games we can't watch, so we're actually going to watch the other game. So we're going to watch some players we've seen before. If I can do that, 1 second. I need to do that, and then that, and then that. There we go. Right, we're in.
All right.
This is between Sportar, who was yet to lose today. They were the undefeated person who had a seed to the semi-finals, and Hognedge, the player. And if you look at their ratings, they're almost identical.
You know what? I think Board Game Arena is telling us something. Our players are telling us something. It is time for Christmas. It's time to celebrate. Green and the red pieces. We've got Sporter playing the green pieces. Has already taken. Is that a robber or a farmer? It looks like a robber to me. And the Hognedge playing the red pieces today. Both players have a castle. You've got a castle. I've got a castle. I wonder, Steve, what do you think about Sporter? Do you think Sporter will be eyeing the potential of joining up with Red's castle?
Yeah, I think, yeah, I mean, they've chosen not to. Actually, it's a good tile because it makes the red castle harder to fill.
Certainly, yes,
Yeah.
a multi-purpose move there. Interesting that Red Hognedge has chosen not to start another castle in the bottom, probably because it's already really close to being blocked with the road to the top left of that bottom castle. We've got two competing robbers already. It's slightly different from the board textures that we've commentated before in that these robbers on these roads, they only need one road ending in order to come back. But with Hognedge's recent placement of that castle tile, it makes it even more likely that Sporter is going to end up with an imprisoned robber, an imprisoned road robber.
I fully agree with you. There's a lot of blocking going on in the two-player version. So if you're thinking it's a bit cutthroat, it is.
Ooh, Sporter countering with a lovely Abbey.
Yeah, not placing a meeple on it though.
What? That's ridiculous. Isn't that ridiculous?
Yeah, I think so. I think they were looking for something like this actually. So something where they could place a tile here. If they'd place a tile with grass on the bottom edge, this would be an impossible space. So that's what they were looking to do. They were trying to build a tile here that made this space impossible to fill. Hognedge is countered by what looks like making more restrictions on this tile, but now they've forced, a bit like the last game we saw, they've forced this to be a tile they can draw.
Sorry, Steve. I'm sorry, Steve. I'm going to pause. I'll pause you. No. Sorry. Please continue. I'll come to my thought.
They basically need this tile repeated to go into this gap. However, two of them have gone. So basically, they need one tile that looks like these two that go here. There's only one left in the deck, but at least they've given themselves an opportunity to draw it.
So, sorry, Steve. The thought that I had earlier. Can you have a look at the two abbeys in the top right-hand side of the board? Those were both drawn by Sporter, and inexplicably to me, in both cases, Sporter chose not to commit the meeple to those abbeys to score what looks to me to be a very clearly easy 8 points. The cost of which, of course, is that they potentially sacrifice those meeples until the end of the game. But the thing is, Sporter has 6 more meeples in hand. Can you tell me a little bit more about the considerations that Sporter might have had that would lead to not taking these abbeys? Would you potentially not take those abbeys?
Personally, I Personally, I would put things on abbeys. I'm going to point out something to you that this position, this tile here, is the tile that Hognedge needs for this. But placing this tile here also kills this space. So these two spaces need the same tile, and all three of them in the game are here. So we can know now for the rest of the game that this meeple is dead and this meeple is dead. So I actually think that's a mistake from Sport R to place this tile here because it kills this spot.
I'm sure both players will be aware of that.
Yeah,
I'm sure. And now here we go with Sporta choosing to initiate the fighting. This could be the only, from my mind, the only reason you wouldn't take those two abbeys is because you want to use those meeples to fight your opponent. Instead, to take over their castles, to take over their farms, and we see Sporta doing that now. If you're a high-level Carcassonne player, or even if you just have ideas, and you have ideas about why Sporta, do you agree with me? Do you think that it's ridiculous that Sporta chose not to take those two abbeys, or do you think that Sporta's got a point, and we're simply missing something from the bigger picture? Let us know.
The second one, I think, is a mistake, potentially. But the first one, if you're using this abbey to kill this space, then you shouldn't put a meeple on it. Because you know that this abbey isn't going to fulfill either.
But it's still 8 points for one meeple. Or 7 points for one meeple.
Possibly. I mean, it depends. Yeah, it depends on other things. So personally, I would. But like, if his intention was to place this abbey to kill this space, it's not ridiculous not to put a meeple on it. I think it's probably poor not to put one on the second one, but that's just me.
Let us know in the comments how ridiculous you think we are, because we've seen so far abbeys being placed, but prioritizing the road portion of the abbey. This is the first time where we've seen abbeys completely disrespected like this. This is kind of new to me, right? Like, what is this? What is the term? There's got to be a term, Steve, for racism against abbeys. Do you know what this might be? It's not xenophobia. That's like racism against like creatures that are non-humans. But there's got to be like a stereotype or something against abbeys.
Probably.
If you know what that word is,
what's Latin for abbey? Campanology. That's spells, isn't it?
If you know the word for racism against abbeys, please let us know what that is in the comments below. Message us on Twitter, message us on Instagram. We need to know these things. This is the reason that we watch Carcassonne. All right, so we're on. Let's have a look at the game score. Super low scoring game. As Steve mentioned before, both players are Blocky McBlockerson. They're Blocky Bens. We've got super low scoring, and no, the game is all about stopping meeples from capitalizing and fighting over each other's resources. Really interesting that this southern castle already, which is worth 4 points, completely unclaimed, and that has to be because both players understand the texture that castle is not going to be completable. So any guy you send there is going to go on a suicide mission. There's going to be a value point. There's going to be a point, and I'm assuming it's going to be around like 6 or 7 points, where it'll simply be worth placing a meeple there, because at that point it's going to be like an abbey, really. So we'll see. We'll see actually whether or not both players choose to compete by creating their own castles, or to compete for the top left-hand corner castle. That is another point of contestation. Certainly, we've watched a whole bunch of these top players compete with a great deal of aggression and gusto. What do you think is going to happen there, Steve?
I don't know, but I was just looking at this move down here, actually. I think this move, they could have put it next to the abbey, but if they put this piece here, it kills this spot. So potentially maybe Hognedge is just trying to avoid killing this abbey, not necessarily. So now that abbey's dead. You'll notice that Sportar's put this here, which gives Hognedge a point, but kills the abbey. So this meeple's not coming back either. So that's, how many dead meeples is that? That's 2 for red, 1 for green so far.
Somebody call the police, because this game is murder. Murder in Carcassonne. Maybe this is the best way for you to play the two-player variant. Maybe it requires you to have these tiles, but certainly it enlightens this ability. The decision that Sporta made at the start to not place those two meeples on those two abbeys. Potentially, we are going to see the repercussions for that move forward, as Sporta has a 2 meeple advantage, now a 3 meeple advantage.
So the other semi-finals are also being played, Chris, as well. So the other semi-final is played at a much faster pace. It seems they're already 10 tiles ahead. So it's up to you whether you'd want to flip between the two, or watch the faster one and come back to the slow one first.
My appetite My appetite is to stay just on the one game for continuity.
No worries. I will keep you informed. It's close-ish at the other table. I will let you know what happens.
Thank you so much, Steve. If you're angry with our decision at all, please let us know in the comments. I should probably stop inciting our viewers to angrily comment, I suppose. I think it's funny. I always love angry YouTube comment. Of course, we prefer for your support and gamesmanship, of course. So we have the next question that I've got to ask you, Steve, and the one that Sport has got to figure out too, is Sporter has very carefully cultivated this 5 meeple to 2 advantage. And my question is, how are they going to use this meeple advantage in order to beat up their friend Hognedge? What is the point here? What do you think, Steve?
Well, if you've got more meeples, when you start getting a big city like this, potentially, if this ever connects up, if you've got more meeples, you're more likely to win that fight. So if Sporter ever connects this up and there's a good opportunity to fight for this, they've got the advantage. Because they've got more meeples, they can invest more meeples into it to try and win that fight. So that's one possibility. The other possibility is as well. It's not too bad now. 5 to 3 is much more different than 3 to 1, because they've both got spare meeples currently. Because Hognedge just picked another one back up. But also in fights for farms. So generally, you don't really get fights for roads. It's all about fights for cities and fights for farms. As it stands, though, I can't really see that good a farm. The biggest farm is the one that has this and this on it. So currently the farm is only scoring 6 points. I'm not sure they're going to have a fight for farm just yet.
With 42 tiles remaining, there's still plenty of Carcassonne left to be played. And my fear is that Sporter's conservative approach to the Abbeys earlier on is not really justified by the maths. Of course, Sporter is our #1 seed, our completely undefeated player through 7 rounds of Swiss, and they happen to be one of the top players in the world. So I'm certain that they've got a rationale. Maybe it is simply beyond our abilities right now. We see that the game score 10 to 6. That is going to be less relevant than the remaining texture of the last 42 tiles. If you're playing the red pieces here, Steve, what are the themes that you'll be aiming to complete? What are you looking for? How do you want your game to progress?
Well, you realise as red, you've already lost 2 meeples. So this potential meeple, you want to get it back at some point. So you want to complete the road. Anything, if you've got a free choice of things to put, you can also put them here, which will add to your Abbey, but it's not actually going to squeeze some points. We noticed that whilst I've been talking at Sportars, played the first farmer, and they've joined up to the farm. I really like playing a farmer on this tile. You forgo potentially 2 different cities, but if those cities complete, the farmer scores. So I don't mind putting a farmer on this tile instead of putting it on the cities. I think it's quite a good move.
I think that that's actually a trap laid by Sporter, because if Hognedge chooses to take either of those castles, the positions are such that they're easy to be blocked. So it's not, and Hognedge has to be quite frugal with their meeple placement because they don't have as many as Sporter. So this is another unintended consequence of Sporter's extra meeples in hand, where they get to bully Hognedge. And you know, of course, if Hognedge chooses not to take one of those, to take both of those castles, then Sporter can, because they've got the meeples in hand, and that will also give points for not only the castles but also the farmer. And this, I think, is this is the point. This is one of the points of not taking the Abbeys earlier. Sporter can now be much more free, has much more flexibility in fighting for those farms, in fighting for those castles, and really asking Hognedge the question: all right, Hognedge, where do you want to commit your last limited resources? Wherever you commit them, I'm going to find a way to make you pay, to make them a difficult choice for you. In the meantime, I will take all of these other points.
Indeed, yeah. They're choosing not to put a meeple on this road because this road is also dead. So although it's 5 long, because you can't put a tile here, this road is also dead. It might be the sort of thing you do with a couple of turns left in the game. If you've got a few spare meeples, add to that road just for 5 points. But there's no point putting a meeple on something that's already dead. There's no point doing that until you've got maybe fewer than 10 tiles left.
Perfectly said.
Excuse me, Chris. I'm just going to get a drink. 1 second.
Of course, of course. So Hognedge has a score discrepancy of 7 points, but it feels a lot larger than that because of the meeple deaths, the meeples that will not come back home to spend some time with Hognedge and their family. Okay, so Hognedge here, with a much better board texture, chooses, you know what, I will take this Abbey because the Abbey is going to come back to me. We got a message via Instagram from Richard CF Crick, who's asking, can we see the Twitch chat? We certainly can. Let's dial into the Twitch chat and see what we can see there. Could I ask you to do that for me, please, Steve?
No. How do we get Twitch chat?
We'll get you just got to bring it up on Twitch later on. Unfortunately, with my audio set up, that'll also invade the current stream, which I'd prefer not to do.
Okay, well, I'll see if I can get it up and read out the messages, but I can't.
Yeah, sure.
Bring it up on screen. I've not set that thing up. So apologies.
No, that's completely fine. So really, we have another really low-scoring game. Everyone's being blocked off expertly, super expertly. There's a whole bunch of little jabs. If I were to put this into like boxing analogies or MMA analogies, this feels like round one, where both players are still feeling each other out. We've got about half of the tiles exhausted from the box, and really, for me, Sport has done a great job of asking the question of Hognedge, what are you going to do, kid? It's all on Hognedge. How are you going to break this impasse? For Hognedge, I see that happening in two different ways. One is the farm game, which has already been truncated slightly and has limited returns. Currently, there are only two completed cities in the center, one completed city on the other side. So that's one difficult way of coming back that Hognedge doesn't quite have access to. The other way. Oh wow, that was really good. Hognedge managing to bring back one of their meeples. That's really important. Finding that robber back.
Oh, we were talking wrong. I miscounted the tiles.
Tile
here, yeah.
I was wondering about that.
Yeah, so my fault. I'm so sorry. So that's actually a big swing because that tile extends Sporter's Road. But that tile also deprives Hognedge of getting it. Apologies, I was miscounting the number of those tiles in the game. Apologies.
It's actually much closer than we've been speaking about now.
Yeah, I think so. I think Hognedge has 2 dead people and Sporter hasn't got any.
Yes. So still, well, actually, they both have a dead person in the castle towards the top left, I suppose. But yes, it's the discrepancy has certainly been addressed by Hognedge, and for the first time, Hognedge manages to take the lead. Hognedge in the lead by 3 points now, and has a lot more meeples in hand to create problems for Sporter. We're seeing this growth of the farmlands towards the left-hand side, more completed cities.
I wonder if we can ask them not to build any further south, because I have to zoom out a bit more.
I think that it would be rude of them to no, it wouldn't. Our job is to commentate their game. We shouldn't stop them from.
Yeah, Sporter's just scored 10 points for that road. Yeah,
massive road. Yeah, 10 road, massive road there. I wonder if there are any pieces. I believe there's only 2 pieces in the game that will connect this big fat castle in the center, which needs castle on 2 sides, grass on the other, and road.
This one here?
Yeah. So
you don't need road, do you? You need no road.
You need road. Sorry, I'm pointing at a different one. I'm pointing towards center of the board. Center of the board.
This
one. The castle. Yeah. So
there's no tile. There's no tile.
Oh,
in the base game.
Excuse me.
In the base game.
So. Previously in last round, we talked about these little, I call them pimples, I suppose, all these little two tile castles, and we see a whole flurry of them happen towards the bottom right hand side of the map. And just as we talked about before, when you have lots of little 2 tile castles, it incentivizes you to fight for the farmers, which we've already got from Sporter. And just as I say that, we see Hognedge refusing, never going to give you up. Never going to let you down. Never going to say goodbye or desert you. There we go. And we got fight.
Yeah, they're both fighting for this. So basically, if this all joins up, Green's going to win it. Currently, Red's got 6, Green's got 9. But if they join up, Green will have 9 and Red will have nothing. So it's in Green's interest to join them up.
We have a really tight game here. And it's actually a game really worthy of our semifinals. A 3-point discrepancy, 22 tiles remaining. Both players have about 11 tiles still left to play. Hognedge has done a great job of staying resilient, and I'm glad that they weren't able to listen to us, because we miscounted and assumed that they had 1 more dead meeple than they actually do. Really well played by Hognedge. Really well played by Sporter. So that's exactly happened. In the southern side of the board, we see Sporter joining up those 2 farmers, and just like in year 3, we've got those bullies Those two
Yeah.
farmers bullying the one farmer.
So I think what Hognedge is going to be looking for is looking to potentially place a farmer on this farm here. Now this farm doesn't get anything apart from 3 points, but if they can place a meeple, very easy to do on any of this grassland here, they'll be able to potentially join up with this farm in the bottom, either to the left of this or to the right of this tile.
Yes. I'll be interested to see whether Sparta continues, if they choose both to escalate the tensions in the Gaza Strip, if they choose to put more farmers there. For the first time in the game, noteworthily, is that a word? Well done to all our Scrabble players. We've got a new game, noteworthily. Hognage has the lead in meeples for the very first time in the game. 3 meeples now to Sparta's 2. Interesting choice to develop the roads towards the north for Sparta. Obviously, that is one intention is to try to complete that abbey in the northern section. But I wonder if there's a different place to use that to block any other city. And right now, neither Hognage or Sparta have really laid claim to their own little city. So there doesn't seem to be much a point to use these roads to block their city placements.
Yeah, they're not really fighting for they're not really building cities anymore, apart from the 2 tile cities.
Yes.
There's no incentive for either of them to join this up, really. I think it gains Sparta 2 more points because there's 2 shields in the bottom, but there's no real incentive to do that.
So if Sparta draws that tile, that does connect those two. So a two tile,
or a three one.
Or a 3, yeah. Then they have the choice of either taking the points themselves or trying to steal Hognage's points. But I agree with you that I'd rather just give myself those points as opposed to, I don't think the value is there to try to steal Hognage's points and give them ours as well. But I could be wrong. Hold on.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what they'll do.
I think the maths. I think that the maths does bear out. I think that Sparta. I'm going to revise my opinion. I think that Sparta is incentivized to connect that up because it's like a gain of 1 point or 2 points.
Yeah, it's a gain of 2 points, I think, because at the moment it's 4 versus 2, and then if you join it up, it'll be level. So you'll reduce their score by 2.
You take 2 points. Yeah. So Sparta is incentivized to do that. The question is whether or not there's a better spot to do it, and if you have a castle that is all your own, whether you want to do that instead. We have a whole bunch, and this actually happens a lot at the highest levels for competitive gameplay. As players have fewer meeples left to place, you end up with a lot of uncontested castles where you can simply take a castle. And really interesting here that after a certain point, of course, you will choose to claim those points, even if it's unlikely for you to be able to finish it.
Oh, that's a lovely tile to draw. Look what
super nice. Nice one, Sparta. I mean, we say nice and well done, but really, their only luck came that it's only luck where we're applauding them for luck. Good job on drawing the right tile that you needed.
Yeah, I think this can potentially go here. Hognage is going to think. I mean, they're going to think about every move they make, but if it goes here, you're joining up these 3 city tiles with these 2 here, and you've got quite a big city down the bottom now. You're not going to finish it. You're not going to finish it, but it's got a shield on it. It connects these 2 up. It's pretty good.
It's still worth what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's still worth 7 points. 1 point per city tile, as well as 8 points now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So certainly worth doing by Hognage, and there is an outside chance that you can finish that. You need 1, 2, 3, 4 end pieces, 4 end castle pieces. So it's not out. It's very unlikely, but it's not outside the realm of possibility. Actually, it may be, depending on the texture of the tiles remaining, which we might want to bring up the tiles remaining, the 72 tiles, because we have a lot of these 2 tile castles, and those are exactly the end pieces that we're looking for. I keep coming back to the earlier decision that Sparta made not to claim the 2 abbeys placed at the start, and contrasting that with Sparta's recent decision to place 2 abbeys later on in the game. And I can't help but wonder why. I mean, obviously, one idea is the idea that you haven't taken those. You want to have those meeples in hand later on, but to me, it's just too alien. Especially with the second abbey. The first one I get because it's much harder to complete, but that second, the abbey to the north of Red's Abbey. Yes, that abbey there. Thank you very much, Steve. It certainly seems very plausible at all stages of the game to finish that abbey.
I think if you've put it on the first one, there's a huge incentive to put it on the second one and put them next to each other, because then they help each other out. So I think once you've not put it on the first one, that's probably the only reason you wouldn't put it in the second one. And the reason I can see, like I said earlier, you're not putting it in the first one because you're trying to kill the meeple beneath you. Potentially, that might be the only reason I can see. I think
Yeah, no.
these are better players than me, so I'd like to hear his thoughts.
Well, clearly.
Maybe they're deciding an Abbey that's only scoring 3 points at the time you place it isn't worth placing a meeple on, but an Abbey that scores 6, 7 points is definitely doing. And there's probably a cut-off in between those values as to how good an Abbey is to place based on how close it is to completion.
I think it might be as simple as if Sporta had chosen to place those two abbeys, then Sporta would have 0 meeples in hand, and the flexibility in order to score would be vastly reduced over the past, say, 10 turns, right? And I think that utility of having meeples in hand is what allowed Sporta to make that quick and very strange adjustment to not place those early abbeys.
This square's dead now, so it's basically these two are going to be separate cities.
Great. Thank you for that nice insight there. Nicely caught, Mr. Steve. You can get a dojo point. Did you do dojo points when you were still working as a teacher?
Yeah, class dojo or something it was. Yeah,
Class dojo.
I tried to do it briefly. I just did my own stuff instead.
For those of you who don't know, Class Dojo is a shout out to Class Dojo. Those fun folk. It's a classroom management system popular here in the United Kingdom, where students get little monsters that they can customize, and they get points. And at certain point thresholds set by the teacher, they get rewards. So traditionally, it's some kind of classroom, some kind of announcement at an assembly. You get points for doing really good work or trying really hard. These kinds of things. It's generally a primary school thing, although I've certainly seen it in the early stages of high school as well. So Hognedge, there's a 4-point discrepancy here. Anybody's game. Who do you think has the advantage though?
I think Sportar does. I think they've now killed this farmer. This farmer they've just placed is dead. I think it'll get 3 points unless you can come around the bottom. This tile is killed. So I think Sporta's probably got the lead. They've got 9 points from this farm. They killed that farmer's not doing anything. And they've got
12 points. 12 points.
Oh, you're absolutely right. Yes, 12 points. 12 points from this farm. They've got 9 points from this farm. Oh wow, that's nice to draw. And they've got
Nice.
They've got 2 abbeys. In fact, they've drawn nearly all the abbeys in the game. They've drawn 5 of the 6 abbeys.
Brutality. But they didn't play, of course, on those 2 abbeys, which we keep coming to.
We do, yeah.
We are really. Carcassonne is really meeple killing city. I've seen more dead meeples in this game than we have in the previous games combined, I reckon.
Yeah, I think so. Well, meeples that have been blocked. So this meeple's not dead. It's going to score 3 points. This farmer at the bottom right, it's not dead. It's going to score 3 points. It's going to score this city. But realistically, oh, hang on. You're saying that if Hognedge can get a tile here, it's back on. I think.
Yes. Yep.
Because this farm's going to score 9. This farmer here, but this city's going to score 9.
Whoa, that's interesting. What an interesting play by Sporta. Is there still the potential then of Hognedge joining that up?
Yeah, but that reduces their score.
Why?
Because Hognedge is currently scoring 5 for this half and like 10 for that half. And if they join it up, they don't increase the score, do they?
No, they don't. But they would complete
rather than scoring them individually, they score them together. But I think Sporta's trying to complete potentially this.
To my mind, that placement is a wash. You give 1 point to Hognedge because of the castle, and you get 1 point for the abbey. So maybe, why else would you want to place that there? Could you not have simply given yourself those points if I played it and extended the top left-hand corner, giving myself 1 point?
Yeah, potentially. Maybe you're hoping to get this meeple back. Because you've got 6 tiles left. I mean, a meeple at the end of the game might just be 3 points. You just put it next to a complete city and get 3 points for a farmer.
No. What I meant was you could have simply added that castle tile to Sporta's own castle in the top left-hand corner.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, you could have added it there.
So instead of making a point neutral play, you simply add 1 point to yourself. So the only real consideration is the return of your meeple. But then is that worthwhile with only 3 tiles remaining? Do I care about that?
Yeah, maybe it's worth 3 points if you've got a free meeple. If you've got no meeples at the end, your very last move sometimes is just to put a farmer down for 3 points. I'm not sure there's many spots on the board to do that. In fact, there is a spot on the board to do that. No one's claimed the farm around this one yet.
Sporter's got the starting tile, so that's very commonly the tile Sporter has to play is very commonly the starting tile. I can't see a good place for that to go. I would advise Sporter to simply add that point to themselves in the top left hand corner, just extend their own castle.
Yeah.
Or no, actually, it's more where your cursor is now. Excuse me, towards the bottom right hand corner of the board.
Yeah.
Why not claim? Top a little bit above that. Claim those unclaimed cities, right?
Oh, this one here.
No, we'll
this one.
Your final meeple.
Yeah.
Sporter has placed their final meeple. Looking for a quick 2-tile castle in the top in the north right hand side of the board.
I think it's right to put a meeple on that, because if you don't, you might give Hognedge a free 4 points.
But now Sporter cannot score any points easily, and I think that was what they were thinking of on their turn, because they got no meeples in hand.
This is close. This is really close.
It is really close. Sporter has a lead of 4 points, but really, it's gonna. I think that the farms down the bottom are owned by Sporter. I think that the Abbey game is clearly being won by Sporter. He's got more points there. Castles, I think that Hognedge has a slight edge on unfinished castle tiles. So it's going to come down right to the end. And I think that Sporter's got the lead.
Sporter gets a meeple back here. This is good. I think Sporter's going to have the lead.
Yes, that's an extra 4 points.
Yeah, 4 points, then gives him another meeple for next turn or the turn after.
I think the southern, the bottom right-hand corner farmland is going to prove, those 12 points are going to prove crushing, as well as the points that Sporter just got with their 4 points.
I think Hognedge can join them up now.
Yes, I would suspect so. Yeah,
so this is now a tie. So now it's a lot closer.
It's so close. This game is really tight. I still think that Sporter has more points on board. So, and Hognedge only has 2 placements left. Sporter will place this. Hognedge only has 1 tile left, because you place a tile, then you draw a tile. So Hognedge only has 1 point left, and I look at this, and it looks like there are fewer points on board for Hognedge than Sporter. Although, I haven't calculated it, so I'm a little bit suspicious.
This is 14. This city in the bottom left is 14.
That's big.
Yeah.
It's it's whether the Abbeys in the farm game work out.
Yeah. So they can get 4 points. This is bad. If they use this to get 4 points here, then Sporter on their last turn can place a farmer on the farmland and get 6.
Yeah, damn.
So that's not good.
Ooh, boy.
This isn't good. I think you might. I don't know whether you have to do that now, because they can get 3 anyway. So you probably have to score this somehow. It might just be better to add it to.
I think so.
Something like one of these, but I don't see an easy place to do it. The other game is finished. Would you like to know what happened at the game over? Game over won. Game over beat Stephen Chang TW by 94-87.
Game over. I think it's a fitting thing that our end boss has the nickname Game Over. Right? Indeed. I like that. Game over by name, game over by nature. I think that's poetic. In this game, I hope I'm not a little bit premature in saying this, and we'll see. We'll certainly stay for the calculation at the end. It looks to me that Sporter is going to be able to eke out a victory in a very hotly contested, very razor sharp game. A game of blocking and counter punches. I know we were joking earlier about the similarities between Carcassonne and chess, but this to me feels a lot like a chess match. What do you think, Steve?
Yeah, definitely. I think actually you get an advantage going first as well. Don't you get to place 1 extra tile? Because Sporter went first, and there was 72.
I do not know.
There was 72 tiles, and 1 starts on the board. So the 71 tiles. I think Sporter gets an extra place. I think they get 1 more placement. So I think Sporter wins. I think they've got 47. So they've got a 15-point lead going into scoring, and I think although this farm at the bottom right's tied, and this city's worth quite a lot, I think Sporter, you're right, I think Sporter's probably got enough. We're going to stay with this and see exactly what happens, and then a final will be between Game Over and the winner of this match. That is a big city.
It's tied here. It's the Abbeys now. It's the Abbeys and the farmland.
Yeah, I think Sporter... Oh, hang on. No, they didn't manage to steal the farm, did they?
It's dead, yeah.
This gets 3. This one gets 3. But it's 87-73, I think.
Yeah.
87-76. Yeah. Excellent game.
Super tight game. Yeah. Sporta, thank you so much for sport. Well, both of you, both green and red players back then. What a fantastic match, and certainly we're going to see a very worthy finals between Sporta and Game Over. A very illustrative match with lots of interaction between the two. Even though it looks like it's a non-interactive game on the surface, Carcassonne is very. There's a lot of calculation, a lot of moves and counter moves, and setting up, blocking things, and I'm going to do this, and what are you going to do? And we've suddenly got access to Steve's desktop, which is nice and clean out there. Shout out to all of you fun folk who make sure that you have a clean desktop, which certainly isn't me. If you have any questions, we're monitoring the.
I wish this was my desktop.
we're watching the messages via Twitch. We're getting a couple of messages via Instagram as well as Twitter and YouTube. If you'd like to interact with us, if you have questions or you have points, we've raised a whole bunch of questions throughout the stream. If you have advice for us as well, we're happy to share that with our with our audiences. Please feel free to interact with us and let us know how you think we're doing. If you've been enjoying this stream, then please do support us by letting us know and writing into the Mind Sports Olympiad. This is the first year that we've migrated entirely online as a tournament format, as well as offered an entirely online commentary schedule. So we're hoping to expand both of these for us in the next coming years. Let us know how we're doing. What are the good points? What are the bad points? And please don't be afraid of using your angry emojis.
Yeah, we're going to join this game between Sporta and Game Over in a second. I believe they played in the last Swiss match. I think they were the 2-6-0s. I believe that was true. I can double check for you, but I believe they've already played and Sporta won in quite a quick time, actually. It was quite a quick result, wasn't it, if I remember correctly, when they were both 6-0 and they were just playing to see who became the seeded player. So they've already played, although Game Over has played one extra match. Whether that will matter, I'm not sure.
Interesting. I think it's very unlikely for there to be a tie situation, although having said that has happened in the Swiss portion of our game setting already. I have to believe that result is going to be quite unlikely here. So I don't think that we're going to go to tiebreakers. I think that it's simply going to be one person bashing another, and it's going to be up to the variance of the tiles. What is going to happen? If you have predictions for this match, if you know Game Over, if you know Sporta, then please feel free to chuck in your predictions below. I think we've seen a lot of really strong play by Sporta. Some really advanced high-level blocking going on. I wonder whose luck is going to hold out. As many of my salty poker player friends have said, it's much better to be lucky than good. So we'll see whose luck holds out for the final round of what has been a thrilling tournament here at the UK Championships for Carcassonne on behalf of the UK Games Expo, on behalf of Board Game Arena, and on behalf of the Mind Sports Olympiad. Certainly a worthy level of competition displayed by all of our fantastic competitors out there. Shout out to all of you for helping make our stream such an enjoyable experience. I've certainly learned a thing or two. Steve, I'm going to take just a quick break to grab some water. I'll be with you just in a little while.
That's absolutely fine. See you in a sec, Chris. So I can confirm that we are going to also have a bronze medal match as well between Stephen Chang TW and Hadnodge. Oh, I've forgotten his name now. Apologies. Near enough anyway. You know who I was talking about, the person who lost the last match we were watching. And so that's going to happen in a second. We are also going to go to the final match when it is uploaded. We're still waiting for the match to be sorted out. There's some stuff going on behind the scenes of Discord. However, what I can confirm to you is that they've already played and the score was 79-74 in favour of Sporta. They played in the last round of Swiss, which didn't really matter apart from they were both through to the knockout stages. It just decided who is the seeded player. Sporta won that. They got a bye straight to the semi-finals for being the seeded player. So well done to them. But maybe Game Over can get some revenge. Sporta is from Portugal. We've already seen them play just the match we played. And Game Over, we haven't seen them play yet, but is another Romanian player. So I imagine potentially they might also know Mars 15, Marian from Romania 2. A shout out to Tar Rules. Farm Wars, they say. So they were commenting when we were talking about the farms. Down the bottom right corner of the last match we have. And to XER X90, who's also been watching along. So thank you very much. If you've got any questions, we are looking at the Twitch chat now, so we can read those out to you and give you some shout outs live on air. We've got a few hundred players watching live. We're just waiting back for Chris, and again, waiting for this match to start. But if you, like Chris said, if you've got any shout outs to people you're playing, if you know the first names of anyone who's playing, you could tell us them and we can at least use them on chat. And we're just again waiting for these matches to be paired up, so I will let you know when they've done. So the semi-final, the playoff for the bronze medal. So basically, if you do enter any of the MSO events, you do get some medals sent to you. So as long as you register on msoworlds.com, some of the events need you to register. Some of them you can just do it on the side. So in this particular case, you needed to do that. And Hognedge is playing Stephen Chang TW on the playoff match, just to see who gets the bronze medal. And they are ranked on the Board Game Arena 51st and 85th, both in the around the 600 ELO. So basically, it rates you on all the games you've played on the site. Yeah, we're still waiting for the other game. I'm pretty sure that Sporter has to start the game because Game Over isn't a premium member. So Game Over's done really well to get this far, not being a premium member. Doesn't cost much. It's a few pounds, like about £3 something a month, just to be a member of Board Game Arena. You get to play hundreds and hundreds of games, and it helps them out, helps them make new games and things like that. And there is a yearly membership as well. I think it's £24, which works out at £2 a month. So you kind of get the monthly cost at half price for a membership. So if you are watching along and you want to join in and you want to play any game and you don't want to get booted off when it's busy or anything like that, then you want to join up as a premium member. It would help them out so much, and it doesn't cost too much. Yeah, so the semi-final, I said the semi-final, the playoff match is up and running. We're just waiting for the final to start.
I cannot believe that already we are in the finals for our Carcassonne Olympiad, the UK Championships of the Carcassonne two-player variant. And so far today, we have seen an excellent quality of match. Steve and I have been, it's been our pleasure to talk you through some of the finer points of high-level strategy, and even better, to see these higher points of strategy being used by these extraordinarily high-level players to finagle and trick and bait one another. And I hope that this is giving you an understanding of just how deep a seemingly child's game can be. There's a reason, I think, that Carcassonne has retained its popularity over the past couple of decades with such great strength, and that happens to be because it's a fantastically developed game. If you're interested in this game and more, then I've got a couple of different recommendations for you. Please, number one, check out the Mind Sports Olympiad tournament schedule available on msoworld.com. Have a look. Just have a browse, check out those games. Number two, if you're shopping for new games to play, check out the commentary streams that we've been doing throughout this entire month via MSO. You can the intention of our streams has been to make the high level play of our competitors that we watch accessible to our average bears. So if you've played these games before in the family kitchen table and you've wondered to yourself, I wonder how the top players beat each other up at these higher level games. I wonder what tips and tricks I can pick up to beat up mom and dad or my brother or my sister, so that they can feel my dominance. If you've ever had those thoughts, our streams are directed for you, and you can watch our commentary. We've got a whole range of excellent commentators, of which Steve, Raine, and I number only just a small portion. Big shout out to the rest of the MSO commentators out there for your tireless work in helping to expand this board game community. Thank you so much for all of your hard work indeed. So that was my second recommendation. My third recommendation is to just jump on Board Game Arena. It's completely free to play whatever game you want. There are tutorials in game that are really well designed by our Board Game Arena friends with lots of bright colors, and it doesn't take you a lot. It doesn't take you a long time to get started in these games. And there's a worldwide community just waiting to play with you. So if you've been bored this coronavirus lockdown, there's no excuse. Get on out there, get some games in there, get better at these strategy games, and challenge your friends. And if you're looking for a little bit of extra challenge, join us at the Mind Sports Olympiad as we continue our quest to find the world's strongest gamer. We have games and tournaments set up all the way up until August 30 is our final day, and you'll be able to fight some of the strongest gamers in the world in their own disciplines. How far away are we from getting started, Steve?
Pretty close, actually. It looks like they're starting to set the game up now. They have to redo it because they need to make sure that Sport R goes first, which I think is an advantage. I'm pretty sure you get one extra tile.
I think, we'll actually clarify that. Could you send a message to Mike Dixon to clarify the advantages of going first? And in the meantime, I think that it's really important to note for our viewers at home that Sport R, whoever Sport R happens to be, and my guess is that their name starts with an R and they pretend and they enjoy sport of some description. I'm imagining that that Sport R is quite an accomplished board game, and not only in Carcassonne but in other disciplines. I wonder if that's true, because they are undefeated through something like 8 rounds of tournament play, 7 rounds of bye, and then winning their semifinals. They've had an undefeated run throughout this entire tournament. And just as I say that, we are just about to head into the game. Of course, we're restarting that game because Sportar did not have the luck of going first. The luck as given by Board Game Arena, but they are going to go first in our tournament because they are the #1 seed. Completely undefeated throughout the Swiss. What an achievement.
If you look, Chris, there's 69 tiles.
Nice.
Which means there's an odd number of moves, which means that one person will get an extra move. So I'm pretty sure Sportar, we can clarify that, but I'm pretty sure you get an extra go.
Fantastic. Very nice indeed. So Sporter with the first move of the game. Merry Christmas to all of you friends and family out there. Sporter takes the first castle. Okay, so game over. First discussion. Are you going to fight Sporter for the first castle or start your own?
I think you do here.
I think you do as well. Game over. Certainly, we've seen a lot of other players play, and they certainly would. Let's see how game over. This is the first match that we've seen of game over, and were they undefeated through the Swiss as well, Steve?
So game over is Bogdan, and it's Marion's brother. So Marion, Miles 15. Bogdan is game over, and they're related. They're brothers.
What a family! Yeah. Bogdan and Marion. I tell you what, I would not want to fight the two of you at the Christmas board game extravaganza. Goodness gracious, what high level play in that family! Congratulations to both of you. And if I remember correctly, then Bogdan would be from Romania. So big shout out to our Romanian friends and family out there. And instantly, Game Over has done exactly what we thought they would do, which is to contest the very first castle. We will see if the players choose to invest more resources into that castle or whether they want to start their own. And as I say that, Bogdan chooses immediately to start their own.
Wow. So Red had the opportunity to add on to Game Overs or Bogdan's or join them up, and they chose to add on to that.
That's just weird. It's just an unfortunate tile placement.
Why would you not put it here?
Because right now Sporter has 2 points and Game Over has 1, so there's no. But
so the difference is 1 point, and you're giving 2 points away by putting it here.
Yeah. So I wonder if there's still a potential for Sportar to find a tile. There is. There are tiles that would close off Sporter's castle and close off Game Over's tile as well.
Yeah, there's only one of them though. There's one type of tile and there's 2 of them.
So maybe Sporter is playing towards that, but you know what? Sporter is a weird thinker. Wow, we're gonna have a low-scoring game, I believe. Instantly, the fight for the big castle, round 3. It feels like Fast and the Furious #7. This is a good concept to be reminded of, friends and family at home. Please, if you're looking for tips and tricks, fight your friends for ownership of their castle, but only in the 2-player variant. In the 4-player variant, you will not make friends. The 2-player variant is a lot different to the 4-player variant.
I think it changes in a 4-player variant. I think when you join up with someone's castle, you're both incentivized to keep building it. You benefit
to be
both
friends.
of you, yeah.
But here, joining in that castle is not an expression of friendship. It is a declaration of war.
Yeah, Game Over decided to just score 4 points.
So that question, that rising tension that we had earlier, and there we go. Interesting. So that's actually a point neutral move by Game Over. And I wonder why they chose to do that.
Is it?
Oh, no, it's not point neutral. They steal a point.
They steal a point, yeah.
They steal a point, yeah. Excuse me. So, of course, Game Over wants to do that. Game Over, of course, having done the calculations. If you're angry about my miscalculation, please let me know in the comments below.
Minea27 has been telling us the information. So I assume they know Bogdan and Marian because they've given us information, and they've said go Romania. So
Come on, Romania! Thank you, Minea, for joining in and for providing those little nuggets of information. Shout out to you, mate. Well done. Good job. All right. So diving straight back into it, the scores are tight as anything. Only a discrepancy of 4 points between the two. We have a 2 meeple advantage by 4 game over. So it's a question now of how are both players going to invest their remaining meeples? What do you think, Steve? What are you looking at?
So Game Over's trying to make it hard for Sporter to complete the roads. So basically, they put something towards the end of this road, which makes it hard. I think it's very weird for Sporter to have 2 robbers. I think that's quite strange, I think, to do that. I imagine they put a robber on this bottom road because it was 4 long already. But often, I generally only want to have 1 road, and then when I draw, like, I only want to have 1 robber. Then when I draw a useless road later on, I can either be annoying and try and stop them, or I just add it to the 1 road I own. It's weird to have 2 roads, I think, and I think what will happen is one of these roads will get killed off.
I cannot help but agree with you. You give me no options because you only speak logic. Can I ask you? I've asked this question before. Is Sporter's flag, is that from Portugal?
Yeah, it's Portugal. Yeah, Sporter's
Okay,
Portugal.
so we actually have for in terms of population size, Portugal is much smaller than a lot of these other nations, but consistently we seem to have a very strong delegation of top level board gamers coming out of Portugal. We mentioned earlier on in the tournament today, Ricardo Jorge Gomez, and big shout out to these smaller countries. I think that's one of the fantastic repercussions of having our tournament online this year instead of having to pay these massive airfares to get these international delegations involved in our competition. Instead, they just got to log into Board Game Arena. Fantastic.
Yeah, it's great to see it be like a worldwide appeal to everything. Absolutely
And
brilliant.
it only increases the competition, which is a good thing for us, and it's a good thing for the players because you only get better as that Bible verse says, as iron sharpens iron, so too does man sharpen man. Or well, the gender neutral version, so too do people sharpen people. If you want to take that idea, but you only get better if your competition is super razor sharp. And certainly that's what we've seen in this competition. Super razor sharp competition from all corners of the globe. That was a big think by Game Over.
Yeah, it was. I was going to say, where would you have put it? That's probably better. There aren't many good places, to be honest. That's a good tile to get. You get your rubber back here.
Ordinarily, I know that we're quite early on. We're in the first 17 we're in the first 20 tile placements. Very early on, generally you have, I've got a castle, you've got a castle, or we'll fight for a castle. We've seen that kind of play out a few times in the center castles. Here, Game Over's placement in the bottom left-hand corner is claiming kind of this last castle. But they could try to take the top left castle, and which is certainly much more dangerous because it's hard to complete.
Yeah, I think it's hard to complete. It's much more like to be blocked.
But now I think the Game Over took that because there were too many points on the board. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 points already on the board, and you can still fix it.
So Game Over is placing this here to make this castle potentially easy to finish. This city, sorry. Potentially also, you've got a 4 long road. I think this is one of the friendliest games we've had, actually. It doesn't seem like there's that many blocking opportunities.
I beg to differ. I believe that the first castle was a blocking opportunity, and I believe that the second castle was a blocking opportunity.
Well, I think they're fights rather than actually actively placing tiles to stop them completing things.
I'm with you, yeah.
This seems quite light.
In that case, I agree with you. I think it's also the texture of the tiles being drawn. One of the interesting decision points that we've seen is Mars 15, Game Over's brother, Marian, showed a great propensity to continue escalating the fight, and we haven't seen that same propensity from Game Over here. So they've chosen instead, Game Over, to invest in their own different castles rather than continuing the fight to overcome the red pieces in the center of the match. So that's already a very interesting discrepancy. I think the next tension points are whether or not this is going to be a lots of castle game or one big castle game. What do you think, Steve?
It's hard to say. I mean, that castle at the top is going to struggle to finish. castle, this city that Green's got, Great Game Over's got here, that's going to struggle to finish. This space is potentially going to get killed off. In theory, you could put a tile here that will kill this space off. So, and then, why would Game Over place that? That seems weird.
That does seem weird because
Yeah.
that simply makes it, from my perspective, from my limited perspective, it looks like that makes it harder to complete that.
I think so. Yeah. Why would you not?
city
Why would you not
pieces.
add to your road here? I don't know.
Only Game Over can know. What is the national language of Romania? Is it Romanian? I
I
think it's
believe so.
Romanian.
Yeah.
I think I'm an idiot. Yeah. So I wonder how whether we can ask Game Over. Speaking of which, Steve, before I forget, would you mind sending a message via Board Game Arena to both of these players, asking if they might, if they, in the event that they choose to win, in the event that they win, if they'd be open to a winner's interview? And while Steve does that, oh, I like the fact that we can see a little bit of their chat here. Good luck, thanks, the same. I love that. Come on, guys, sportsmanship. I'm never gonna get sick of that. I don't care. I don't care how stupid I seem. I think sportsmanship will never go out of style. Classy stuff.
I can't
Love
speak.
that.
I can't speak to them directly, so I'm going to have to go elsewhere.
Good. Right. In the meantime, I'll take over the commentary for now. So a lot has happened. We've got a lot of little pimple castles happening in the left-hand corner of the board, where Game Over has invested their meeples. I think that the top left-hand corner meeple is pretty dead. I think it's safe to say that guy is not coming back home for Christmas. You know, Game Over has 2 meeples left. Sporter having 5. So the utility of meeples in hand is certainly, that advantage is certainly in Sporter's favor, which is being solidified by this Abbey placement. You know, I don't think that Abbey's going to come home. Unless there's a confluence of certain circumstances, because I don't really see Game Over wanting to put more end pieces in the top left hand corner castle as opposed to finishing off castles, say, in the left hand corner, exactly as I mentioned. So I don't think that either of those meeples in the top left hand corner will be coming home. But I could be surprised. We have a lot of Westry Warming.
Yeah,
Good luck, 615. Yeah, well, it's a good thing you're not an English teacher, Steve. Let's just say that. We're seeing in the bottom left-hand corner of the board, we see Game Over, a good friend Bogdan, happily making a whole bunch of different little mini castles, these 2 tile castles, these pimple castles. Which, if we have a few more of those, it's going to incentivize the fight to turn towards farmers in that region.
Sorry, my mouse has died. I will try my best to rethink. Something's happened.
Thank you very much to all of your patience out there as we deal with these technical difficulties that have arisen. We'll be back with the stream momentarily. In the meantime, I would love to point you to the Twitch, which we're currently broadcasting on Board Game Arena. We're via Board Game Arena's Twitch, as well as the Mind Sports Olympiad YouTube and Twitter. If you have messages to send us, please feel free to tune in there. Game Over is actually Marion's brother. Thank you, Minea. I hope that I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Thank you for sending us through that message. Thank you very much for letting us know. Whoa, wait, I'm repeating the message that Steve said. And while Steve is fixing his technical difficulties, I think it'd be an interesting thing to go back to the texture of the board, if we can remember in our head as visual learners, to go to think about who has an advantage. From what I can recall, I believe the scores were pretty much even, and the fight was revolving. We hadn't yet had any significant investment by either player in the farming game. We had our red player Sport R with 2 abbeys, and they looked to be that they were going to be unfinished abbeys. And we had our green player, Game Over, Mr. Bogdan, who happens to be Marion's brother, the brother of the world champion at Carcassonne, with 2 cities which looked like they were going to be close to being unfinishable. My predictions are that we are heading into the style of the game where players will be considering the farm territory. Particularly, I say that because I expect when we go back to the board, I think that one reasonable outcome would be in the bottom left-hand corner that Game Over, Bogdan's little pimple castle empire is going to expand. And I believe that that's going to incentivize a Sport R to fight for the farmers right over there. And here we've got Steve returning to us.
Yeah, maybe. My mouse is gone. I can't seem to fix it. Give me a sec, see what I can do.
Alrighty. While Steve continues to work on that, I do want to say again, apologies. Well, not again, but for the first time, apologies to our friends over at Board Game Arena, to Mindsports Olympiad, to our faithful viewers. We will work to get this technical issue dealt with as quickly as possible. If you are interested in tuning into the game outside of our commentary, then you're free to do that actually now too. You can go to Board Game Arena and log on to their website, or you actually you don't. The two usernames Sport R and Game Over. If you can remember how many underscores were in that, I'd recommend looking up for Sport R and watching their game in progress. You can follow their game live as we would be doing so. We of course, this isn't ideal. We'll be looking to come back as quickly as we possibly can. All right.
Yeah, still not working, I don't think.
All right,
okay. I'm going to have to reset my computer, Chris. I'm sorry. I don't know what I can do.
All right.
I've tried two different mice, so I will be back as soon as I can.
That's okay, Steve. For our friends and family back home, we're going to pause our stream for a little while. We'll hopefully be back with you in just a little while. You have the option of following along the live action if you happen to be live right now by tuning in at boardgamearena.com and searching through for Sportar. Apologies for these inconveniences. We'll be back with you shortly.
Okay.